sound and video too until your introduction, London.
Okay, can you guys see the screen share?
No.
I see it.
Yep.
Good.
That's the flyer and.
Oh yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, great.
Oh, I have to add a light.
If you know you're self-sabotaging around money and you don't know how to stop, this might be the most important video you see today. In it,
Okay, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're going to start in a few minutes. We're just going to give time for everyone to come on, sign in, and get relaxed and comfortable. So we'll just start in just a few minutes.
Thanks.
All right, beautiful music, Amy. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know that we have people that are still coming in, so feel free if you're just getting here, please relax and get comfortable. So I want to say good morning. Thank you for joining us. I know it's morning time here in Hawaii, but we also have people from around the world. I see London, California, Nevada. I think my dad's also tuning in from Tennessee. So welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is to you. So before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is London, and I work with Samaritan Counseling Center, Hawaii. And we received a grant to do these workshops. And so this is part of a 10 series workshops that we've been offering online since COVID has started. So I'll go ahead and get started with some disclaimers. some information about our sponsors, our speakers, and then we will get on our way to some meditation. Okay, so while this may feel therapeutic, I just want to say that this is not a substitute for mental health treatment. It's meant as a supplement to and not a substitute for the knowledge, skill, and judgment of qualified clinicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, really just health professionals. So if you experience any health, medical, any concerns right now, please seek the proper resources. Please call 911 if it's an emergency. And again, this, while it may feel therapeutic, it is not a substitute for mental health treatment. Also, this webinar is being recorded for educational purposes only. So if you would like to remain anonymous, please change your name on Zoom to anonymous. And you can do that by scrolling over your speaker pane. And once you scroll over your speaker pane, it should light up in the upper right corner with, you'll see a mute button and you'll see a 3 blue dots. Click that button with 3 blue dots and then scroll down to rename. And you can just rename yourself to whatever is anonymous for you, whatever you feel comfortable with. But the webinar is being recorded as well as the chat box. So if you'd like to remain anonymous, please do so now. Okay, and as I mentioned, I do work for Samaritan Counseling Center, Hawaii, and we received a grant from the City and County of Honolulu to conduct these workshops. So there are 10 workshops that we'll be conducting this year. And Samaritan Counseling Center, Hawaii is an interfaith nonprofit organization on Oahu, and our mission is to provide professional and accessible behavioral health counseling that's really sensitive to the spiritual traditions of people in Hawaii. And the one thing that makes us special is that we accept clients regardless of their ability to pay. We receive donations through a client assistance fund. So if you don't have insurance or you're not able to pay, you can still receive counseling. And right now we're doing counseling online. We're doing telehealth, video, phone counseling, as well as some in person. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, please visit the website. Down at the bottom of the screen, it says SamaritanCounselingCenterHawaii.org, or you can reach us at 808-545-2740. Okay, and another one of our sponsors this evening is NAMI Hawaii. I'll let Anissa step in and speak about that.
Hi guys, welcome. So we have a bunch of free programs here in Hawaii. We have our NAMI support groups, which are online right now. Our next one is our Women on Wellness support group, and we'll be having an emotional first aid guest speaker. Her name is Jenna. She's a social worker. And then our next online community connection recovery support group is on August 5th. And all of that you can see at our website at namihawaii.org. We also have a free 8-week family to family class where you can learn how to be a caregiver of a loved one with a mental health condition. So you learn things like empathy, brain chemistry, and then also how to navigate the system. We also have our NAMI walk, which is going to be on October 10th. It'll be virtual this year, and it's basically going to be an online community and mental wellness day. We'll have a bunch of different coping skills in the morning and then share stories of hope in the afternoon. So it's open to register now at namiwalks.org/Hawaii. So I hope to see you then.
Thank you, Anissa. And next, for our sponsors, we have a University of Hawaii at Manoa, the John A. Burns School of Medicine. So I'll let Dr. Amy Brown step in and speak about that.
Hi, thank you both London and Anissa for organizing this presentation. We really appreciate it, and spreading the knowledge of mindfulness out into the community where we can all become more balanced and centered. And I just want to say how I got started on this topic, because my background is in nutrition. That's where all my degrees are in. And I was actually part of the John A. Burns School of Medicine Department of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, which got changed to Quantitative Health Sciences. But mindfulness lives on. And I spoke to Jimmy Toyama of Mindful Hawaii. I actually saw him on an Alula show, and I called him up and we got to talking, and then he asked about a class existing at UH Manoa on mindfulness, of which there was one by Dr. Tay, but she offered that only to majors, about 20 people. So I started a class, CAM 401, Mindfulness Meditation and Stress Reduction, and that was about 2 years ago, and we started with about 20 and we're up to 88 now per semester. And it's really turning out to be a wonderful class. And then recently, there's been a mindfulness online Zoom presentation at the medical school for students, faculty, and staff, and that's been growing too. And so I just wanted to, provide that information to you on how we got started and what we're doing now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. Okay. So as Amy shared, her background is in meditation and mindfulness and human nutrition. She received her doctorate in human nutrition from Virginia Tech, and she currently works at the University of Hawaii, the John A. Burns School of Medicine, in that department that she was speaking about, the Department of Quantitative Health Sciences. She has authored over 44 scientific publications in the field of human nutrition and health, and teaches CAM 401 mindfulness meditation to University of Hawaii Manoa undergraduates. So she's our first speaker, so thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Our second speaker is Noah. Noah is a UC, oh, there he is. He just turned his camera on. Hey, Noah. Noah is a UCLA trained mindfulness facilitator, certified professional mindfulness teacher by the International Mindfulness Teachers Association. His drive to share mindfulness stems from over a decade of personal practice and silent retreat experience. Noah offers in-person and live online mindfulness classes and workshops to a range of audiences in Hawaii, including the University of Hawaii, Halawa State Prison, and Bodhi Tree Meditation Center. Noah is committed to sharing mindfulness to help society meet the challenges of the 21st century with greater awareness and compassion. So thank you, Noah. Noah is our second presenter. So without further ado, I will let them get started with the meditation and mindfulness.
Okay, I just wanted to share with you the music that comes along with this. And is the full screen showing, Anissa?
Yep, it's showing.
I wanted to start with a brief meditation because no matter what I say verbally, what really happens is in the heart and in your being in terms of the transformation that your mindfulness has on your life. So I'd like us all to sit in your chair, away from the back of the chair, because that'll cause you not to sit sometimes with a spine that's straight but relaxed, not super stiff and straight, but just relaxed so that the weight of your shoulders pushes down on your spine and you're being held up evenly by both sides on your seat. That your feet are flat on the ground and that your legs are comfortable and not crossed. And or if you're sitting on a cushion, even better, but in a situation where you're not cutting off the leg circulation. And your hands can be together like this, or like that, or like this on either knee, or on your lap, wherever you feel comfortable. There's no absolute rule, unless you're following a specific type. And the most important thing now is let's start with the breath, focusing in on drawing the breath up through the flatness of your feet. Imagine it coming from the center of the earth. Drawing in one large breath, holding, and exhaling, exhaling, exhaling from the bottom of your lungs, just exhaling. Drawing a breath in, focusing on all that wonderful air filling your lungs, that you are alive today. And I can hear the birds singing in the background. Those are my real birds outside. Holding and letting go. Just breathing in, holding, and letting go. Think of 3 things that you're grateful for in your mind, that you can hear the music. These are my gratefulness tunes, that I live in Hawaii and I'm breathing out, and that I can plant trees that grow and bear fruit, all kinds of trees. Just breathing in, relaxing and letting go. Breathing in with all the human beings and animals, breathing in, holding, letting go. 1, 2, 3, inhale. Hold, 1, 2, 3, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Longer exhale and inhale slows your mind processes. Breathing in, you're watching your breath. Holding and letting go.
Think it's good for you?
Okay,
One simple trick.
so we're good.
Cardiothoracic surgeons.
Hold on, I'm trying to get out.
You really have changed the way I think about what I.
All right. I rang this bell. This is a big bell with a little hammer here. And as you can see, this is called a Tibetan singing bowl. I actually bought it at a gift shop in Hilo in Kailua Kona. And they're available in various places. So I'd like to get my start talking about mindfulness, what it is, how to practice mindfulness, and awareness versus lack of awareness. We're on the 3rd slide, which should be showing now. And in essence, what it really is all about is paying attention at the present moment, right here, right now, in a sort of non-judgmental type of way. And that was by one of the leaders of mindfulness, one of the new leaders of mindfulness, because it goes back thousands of years, Jon Kabat-Zinn. Now I've got a question for all of you, and you can put it in the chat box if you'd like. Here's your first question. What is the space between your thoughts? Anissa, can you read some of the answers, please? Because I won't be able to see them.
Yeah, eternity, consciousness, more thoughts, body.
Okay. The little story behind this, and I just want to make sure, is my slide, what is your space between your thoughts showing?
Correct.
Okay, good. I was outside of a lecture hall and I was waiting to go in, and there was a student outside and we were just talking, and he was kind of rambling on and going about talking about different things, and his mind was really jumping from place to place, and we just started to listen to him as he was an explorer. And he asked me this question. We're just killing the time. And he said, what is the space between your thoughts? And it was just one of those riddles of which I'm not very good at. And I just quickly said, I give up, what is it? And he said, well, it's you. It's you looking at your thoughts. And, I instantly laughed at that because it really is. What is it that is you looking at your thoughts? And what that does, it pushes you back in a sense, to look at what you're doing instead of just being lost in your thoughts, lost in the feelings that follow, and lost in the action that follows feelings oftentimes, and not always thoughts, although it's usually a combination. So in answer to that question, it's you, and here it is written beautifully in calligraphy, looking at your thoughts. And if you think about that, it goes a little further. If that's the space where an awareness exists, then you are watching, being conscious, being awake of your body, how it feels right now. You can feel where you're at with the feet, the legs, the arms, where you're sitting in your, and how you're doing. Because the body, sometimes when it gets sick, it affects your thoughts. It can trigger fear and or feelings that are pleasant. And then it affects your feelings. The thoughts can affect, both body and thoughts can affect your feelings. And so when you see that, what you're saying to yourself, and this is very important, that you're retraining your mind that's been basically just let loose on the running field to say, you are not your body. And say this to yourself, I am not my body. Because look at it, look, everybody's got a different body. And if you look to the first day that you were born, to when you entered kindergarten, grade school, high school, college, and beyond that, that's not you. That thing is changing at a mile a minute. And even as you sit here right now, it's changing. So, and that's the beauty of it. The beauty inside of you doesn't change, or actually it can get more polished and continue. You're not your feelings. If you're feeling blue, if you're feeling stressed because of a roommate situation or a recent death in the family. I recently lost my mother within the last 3 weeks. And it's been an acknowledgement that that's just a part of life, and that you do have feelings, and that we should honor them and not just try to get rid of them just to watch them. Just because you might not be feeling well, that doesn't mean that you should be judgmental of that, of yourself. And then you are also not your thoughts. And a lot of people who are intellectual sometimes get lost in that, and or certain thinking. Some people can think about something, but that's not you. That's almost like saying that, that you're not everything else that you are. So the goal of mindfulness is to increase this space, the length and the frequency. So you've got the length and then the frequency up and down, just to become a little bit more even. You're not going to not have the up and downs. You're not looking for a flat line. That means you're dead. And what you want to do is, from that space in between your thoughts, is watch your thoughts. Then see those feelings sometimes arise. Just recognize the feelings follow those thoughts you had. And that here's where you become empowered. You have the power to change your thoughts. And you have the power, sometimes often, to change your feelings that arise, or at least just to acknowledge them. And sometimes when you see them, they dissolve. Sometimes when you see them repeatedly, the patterns, let's say somebody irritates you, and you can just say, well, that can, after time, just dissolve, as long as you recognize it. And what this does, it doesn't result in happiness where you're always on a high, and it's a contentment. It's a deep contentment that you see in people, Buddhist priests or pastors or people that practice serenity, coming from stillness, which can even be as simple as that kind of contentment that comes from deep prayer. So mindfulness is developed through a prayer-like practice of meditation. You're actually meditating. You're keeping the mind on the moment awareness of what's going through your mind. You're just sitting there. the goal is not to get rid of all thoughts. That's not really that easily done or possible. And a lot of people get down on themselves. Oh, I'm not a good meditator because all these thoughts are going through my head. Well, that's good. I mean, the brain just automatically sends those thoughts out. I mean, and so what you do, you watch them. What are they? Where'd they come from? Just, watch. And then what you start to do secondarily, it's 2 steps. You extend it to daily activities. And this is where you actually get a lot of practice. And we'll show you how to do that in 2 slides. And this is where your contentment can become even deeper. And so we're going to practice meditation here with the help of Noah Pomeroy, and show you here now that there's different types of meditation. And they all focus on concentration of the mind. We use the breath in the entry meditation because it's always present. Let's hope it is, because without that breath, you're not alive. And what you can be, no matter what you're going through, is be grateful for that breath, no matter what physical condition your body is in or mental condition that your mind is in. And I know that the two often influence each other, but being grateful that you're breathing. And that's just enough, everybody's going to do that anyway. And if you're grateful for that, you've got the day made. Now there's a mantra, repeating a word or phrase, and music can be an option too. Some people meditate better with music, other people do not. And I prefer no music, but maybe a little music in the beginning to get started. And what you're slowly doing is you're actually changing your brain waves. You're making them slower. One time I left meditation and I was driving and I was driving a little too slow, which is not usually the case. I was driving so slow that a cop almost pulled me over. It's called impeding traffic. It's actually a ticket. I've been wanting to give that to a few people. But anyway, the other thing you can do is visualize an image, and it can be your traditional belief system, anyone or anything in your belief system. It can be a candle. It can be a picture in your mind or an actual image in front of you. And you choose that. It could be you're sitting in a meadow with a creek or a pond in front of you. And then there's also grounding the body, where you start from the legs up, almost like a yoga practice, where you just strengthen and then relax each part and you move on up, relaxing, grounding, and so forth. All of them require some sort of concentration. So a lot of us don't like to concentrate on washing the dishes. So what do we do when we're washing the dishes? Something that I usually thought was a complete waste of time. I started to see each step, and I started to say, now what can I be grateful for here? And I had the dish in the running water, and I said, I'm grateful for running water. And I love water, I'm a Pisces. And so I could feel the water going over my hands, and it was going into a sink. I had plumbing. I was really grateful for plumbing. I had hot and cold water, and I could modulate it to my own feelings as to what was comfortable to me. And I just started to be really grateful for the water. And then the soap. Not everybody has soap, but it's a beautiful thing. It has a fat absorption in and a water absorption in, and it just pulls the dirt away like magic. Without it, it would be a lot more difficult. So I was grateful for just soap and washing it and cleaning my hands. And then I started to think, I'm washing the dishes because I have food. And I was able to pick the food from a Safeway or Foodland or Times. And I had so much choices available to me that it was just really unbelievable. Sometimes, it's too many choices. And so I started to see that. And I saw it as an exercise in gratitude, is what we're talking here. Driving. Nobody drives as well as we do. And so there's criticisms that occur, judgments. Instead of just looking at perhaps the grass and the cracks on the road along the way, being grateful that the road is paved. I've been on a lot of roads that are not paved, and they take a lot of work to keep flat if they are dirt with a tractor. I used to do that. We had a 3/4 mile driveway in Nevada, and then that feeling of just you don't know where that other person is emotionally. And I just read somewhere where this person got out of hand driving, and she had just lost her 2 teenage sons. And there are just a lot of people going through a lot of problems like you see here in the lower right. And my mother said one thing. She was a nurse, and she said, greet everyone and treat everyone as if they're hurting, because they are. And I think that that's just part of life sometimes, not all the time, but it's a part of life. And mindfulness isn't about being super positive and happy and stable and just everything's kosher and cool, because that's not life. And we learn through life, and we grow through life, and we become more mature through the practice of mindfulness and acknowledgement of what is real and what is authentic and what is solidly touching the ground. And when you do that and you step away from the unreality sometimes of what society pushes on you, you become more grounded and you become more real, and then you become more authentic eye to eye with other people. And that is connection, is what everybody really needs, because the ultimate connection is love. So waiting in line at the grocery store, another thing that can be problematic. So start looking around, looking at all the candies and the gum and the magazines. And I appreciate color. I can see different colors, and that they have very extreme, types of creativity, and it's always different. There's a history behind all these candies, and just being alive and being able to be in the store, walking, noticing the grass. I remember when I was in college at UH Manoa, and then thinking about how I need to graduate and then I can live, and then I graduate and I got to get a job and then I can live. And then a lot of people think, well, I got to retire and then I can live. and you're not noticing the grass. And if you're not content and being in the present moment now, you never will be. So every part of life, every section of your experience of life has something to wash you in and bathe you in. And that includes exercising. I now never get bored when I exercise. 40 minutes on the elliptical trainer. Okay, so I bring the newspaper and I'm reading it, but at least I'm doing something. But I can also stand there and be present. And accepting the loss in life. We all maybe have pets that bring a lot of joy to our life because they're alive and they bring alive memories to our lives that we relish. And there was a person that I lost to a drunk driver once. He was a good friend of mine. And I didn't accept it. And it's not something that you have to do consciously. This is something in your being. And it's when you accept it that all of this starts to slow down, the stillness, and now contentment starts to blanket your overall life and your mind. The bigger picture, open awareness, extends to the world. And this is a spiritual level of maturity that leads to accepting all of life. I came to a point where I didn't like some tribulation that I was going through at a particular moment in my life. And it involved politics. And I first, which I disdain and think shouldn't even exist. But somebody later told me, if there's a baseball team of 3 people, there's going to be politics. 3 people or more, you're going to get politics. So I said to, and I believe in, people have their traditional belief systems, and mine is I'm Christian. And so I said to what I believed was God, this isn't the life that I wanted. This isn't what I would have chosen, but I'm here. I accept it, and I love you no matter what, because I'm not here in it for you do this for me and then I'll love you. You're not my grand exchanger of gifts or what life should be. Life is life, and it happens. It's just biology. Cancer happens, that's biology. That's not necessarily, something that you can blame. So no matter what reality brings, I accept it moment to moment. And mindfulness is nice because it can work with any belief system and or no belief system. So here's a picture of past and thinking of the future, what often fills a lot of our minds, and versus the present moment. So you can see on the left, a person that is mindful or in the present moment. And we always have that choice. And when I accepted life and everything that it was, I had this moment, universal moment of mindfulness that was just totally exquisite. And one moment that I will never forget. However, it doesn't stay with you. And it does sometimes come back, but not always. And what I want to show you here is the difference between being asleep, not aware, and being awake, or what we see as awareness. Thinking about the past all the time and your regrets and building a rut and digging a grave of depression versus thinking in the future and you're worried and you're anxious and now you have anxiety, which can also lead to other problems, panic attacks, and maybe even depression too. And not having you experience the life, the gift that you were given. Oftentimes life is based on the ego, and ego is an illusion because what I'm wearing here today is by today's cultural standards, but not 100 or 1,000 or 4,000 years ago. And if we went back 1,000 years ago, they would laugh at what I'm wearing now. And I would be, quote, picked on in what I call a high school mentality. But all of it, the houses, the cars, the clothes, the degrees, the money, that's all based on ego to assuage a weak person who's insecure. Now, everybody's insecure because that's how we're born. We're born as naked babes. We don't know anything. Think about that time. You didn't know anything and you're very insecure and you relied on other people. And what happens is that as you become older, now you start relying on your friends, your social group. That's your security. And then the society. Unfortunately, a lot of people have their body, their feelings, and their thoughts drive their day, often based on their certain culture. And they can't just step back and look at what's deep inside and spiritually what's most important. They live in their mind, oftentimes, and we do too, and they react to drama. We do react to drama. What you want to do is switch to being responsive to what's happening. Symptoms of people, including myself, when I fall back, you're rushed, you have lack of eye contact, kind of hard to do on Zoom. I'm looking at you. There's a superficial interaction. I'm trying to be real with you today, and it starts with me being real. What starts to happen when you don't get what you want based on your ego drives, whatever it is that you think is important, all important, is frustration first, followed by frustration is just anger, like a tiger being prodded in a cage. Then it becomes anger, and then the fight happens when the tiger lashes out at you between the cage bars or escapes and comes right after you. So if you're fighting, if you're angry, if you're frustrated, this is a thought that you're looking at in the space between your thoughts. That was a feeling following some thoughts. Soon you start to catch yourself. Oh, those are the thoughts that precede anger. And now I can scale back. I had a student in my class. She said she was angry and fighting all the time with her family members. Well, she said at the end of the semester that this class really helped her because now her family members said that they noticed a difference, and she's not, her anger went way down. I think that's a super success. I think that's great. And I think the more of us become awake and aware and watching reality within the reality of ourselves, which is different for each person. Reality is a 360-degree sphere. But we have two eyes with double dimension, and we see what we see based on our life experience, our knowledge, and our beliefs. And we just pick one spot on the sphere, and we don't see everything else around it, just like the big elephant story. And, you know, there's only, the ultimate reality is when, you know, can only be seen by the ultimate reality. So when you're aware of the present moment and you're seeing drama unfold, you say, it's like watching a movie. Your life is like this movie, but you accept this moment without judgment when you're just watching it. And you sometimes chuckle, it's just a movie. This person is screaming and yelling at me. It's just a movie. I'm going to step back and I maybe not even react. Maybe I'll go for a walk. But when I don't react, I will instead respond. And with, I was on Kauai once, and I walked into an art store. There was nobody in the art store except the person behind the desk way in the back. And he looked up, and I saw him, and he saw me. At that particular time, I was being really calm and aware. And we made eye contact. And he knew, and I knew that we were both aware at that time. And there was a calmness and a resulting interaction that was meaningful with connection. And one time that I was outside the convention center, very busy intersection right there at Atkinson and Capilani Boulevard. Lots of people going to the convention, going back and forth from out of town. And one person stopped me and he says, do you know where X, Y, or Z is? And, you know, I stopped and I looked at him and I connected. And I just, this had nothing to do except soul to soul. And I told him very calmly, and he just was quiet. He slowly, his entire being slowed down. And he thanked me from his heart without saying a word. Because we're often rushed in this world of superficiality that doesn't really mean anything, you know, in terms of what really counts in the long run. And one of the ways to get in connection with all of that is being closer to nature, experiencing the five senses now. So if you can't do that where you're at normally at work or in your home, going outside and connecting with nature, like the Hawaiians do and did, is really true beauty. And life is beautiful, I wrote right there, because nature is a manifestation of reality. You can't beat nature. Nature is. And there's a constant centering with it, and everything is connected around the globe. There's trees and grass or sand and desert and water and ocean and air, all indigenous societies connected to the land. And deep in our hearts, we all want to also. This is why we go on vacation to Hawaii. This is the place. But are they centered at the end? Or do they go back and then they get washed into the ocean of superficiality, fast thinking, and rush paced, and getting lost spiritually? This is why Hawaiians, Native American Indians, and other indigenous people, they need that. We all need that, or we feel lost at a very deep center of our being. And so meditation is just bringing back that light from above and that energy from beneath and just connecting back and just being present and being together for once. And I just also at this time, I want to thank, and I'm truly grateful to the Hawaiians for being able to speak here in this land of theirs and surrounded by the beautiful ocean, of their philosophy and belief system of aloha and brotherly and sisterly connection that is very unique to their group. And very loving, actually. And I think mindfulness is actually just going back to that and bringing it back. So our individual lack of awareness, you know, we all start off as little babies, like the little birdies there. And I've raised a bird from that age, and it was a magpie, and he became the biggest magpie of the group after he escaped and went back, but because I fed him dog food. But when you're young, you know, you're just in survival mode and you're trying to start and you're on the hunt. I have this unchecked striving, and that was me when I was younger. I mean, maybe not too long ago. And you're living to build up the self, the ego, this picture of what you should be. So it starts early. You're an unaware child. I want, mine, give me. And I still know a couple of people like that today. They want their toys. They're just more expensive now. The cars, the boat, the house, the clothes. This is their self-image. I know a person now, he bought a Dodge Charger, brand new car. You know, okay, you know, I keep a car for at least 10 years, maybe 20. But, you know, everybody's different. If that's what you like, there's nothing wrong with it. If you want the best ski equipment, that's fine too, or the best surfing board, that's okay. But just so it's not everything that's you. And so sometimes when these things start to go away, like your youth, your body, even your intelligence, as you get older, you start to lose a little bit of memory, but it's okay. And mindfulness helps to keep you centered. If you lose a job, it's okay. You just roll with the wave of life. And you know, who you are is not your degree. I prefer to be called Auntie Amy than anything else. And it's not your social class either, because class is being respectful to anybody regardless of their class. And a lot of people with class know that, or without class know that, in terms of social structure. Sometimes in the East, there's a very strict hierarchy. So ego is an illusion, because that's just culturally painted. And so society is lacking awareness. If you look at society today, Western society, the United States, it's largely ego-based. And they worship beauty, brawn, brains, and bucks. And I'm saying, and I feel, this is my opinion, that society is spiritually sick. And it makes us sick as a result. Like, we grow up in this. We're the flower growing up in this weeded garden. So the basic behavior in society is driven by the positive, pleasure, physical, psychological, praise, power, fame, and gain. And negative, trying to avoid displeasure, pain, disgrace, and loss. And their feelings are based on the fulcrum as to where their particular day, 5 minutes, year, 10 years is. But that's not true, because if the first half of your life is developing the ego, the second half is life is letting it go. And you know, it's easier to let it go when you're 50 because you've made it and now you don't care. Forbes said, by the time you've made it, you've had it. And you just start to see all of life and the bigger picture. And so the ego is not who you really are. It's your self-image. It's your social mask. And it thrives on approval. A lot of actors and actresses sometimes are prone to alcoholism or drugs because they either like you or they don't. And it's a lot of stress trying to get them to like you all the time, and with enough publicity. And so it's living in fear. But when you let go of the ego, there's no image to protect, and you're free. And I once asked somebody, I was meditating, I couldn't let go of the ego. And so I asked at the end of the class, I said, how do you let the ego go? It's always, you know, bothering me. And I got an answer, but it was a non-answer answer, which I got a lot of growing up. And because I asked a lot of questions to the chagrin of a lot of people. But anyway, a lady came up to me after class and said, Amy, there is no ego. It's made up. It doesn't even exist except in your mind. I go, oh, oh, thank you. That's true. And so when I remember that, it doesn't even exist. It's in my mind. I made it up. It's a cartoon. And so there's this huge amount of freedom. This is one of my favorite pictures. This freedom allows you just to not take anything personally. So you know you're really being mindful if someone's upset with you or says something nasty in a meeting or over the phone, and you don't take it personally. You know why? Because there's no person here to insult. We're all the same inside, you know, spiritually, or what you consider your being. We all have very similar experiences. And I didn't realize that for a long time. And so here's a favorite of mine. This guy is a scientist. He's taking a needle and he's punching the balloon with the ego written on it. It's fake in so many ways. And the ego says, once everything falls into place, I will find peace. And the spirit says, find peace and everything will fall into place. So the death of the ego will be the beginning of your real life. And ultimately, sometimes people and certain people experience universal consciousness, which is like a split second. It's not even planned. It just happens where everything melds together, multiple colors, waves, and you feel this being that is part of everybody, part of the raindrops that fall onto the earth, into the stream, and into the ocean, of which we all become. And I love Pooh growing up. And Pooh says, "What day is it?" asked Pooh. "It's today," squeaked Piglet. And Pooh said, "Wow, it's my favorite day." So I just want to end with that. You can always reach me at amybrown@hawaii.edu, and I'd be happy to respond and answer any questions and/or questions now in the chat box. I'd be happy to do that too.
Okay, thank you, Amy, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. So now we'll go ahead and get started with Noah.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much, Samaritan Counseling Center, London, Naumi, Hawaii, Anissa, thanks a lot. Dr. Brown, thanks. That was a great opening to this presentation today. And to all of you joining us, thanks for being here. This is a meaningful thing to participate in and learn from in a time when we need it so much. So I want to start with just a 1-minute meditation. Feel like I need to let that presentation just sink in for a moment. So I invite you to let your eyes gently close. Take one big deep in-breath in through your nose. And just notice your body right now. Notice where your body is contacting the chair or the cushion or the floor. Just tuning into these present moment sensations unfolding right now. And now checking in with your mind, noticing the state of your mind after that presentation, just observing anything swirling around in there. And now open your eyes and just notice seeing. Look at the screen in front of you. Look around the room that you're in and just take in the sense of seeing. Notice colors, shadows. Maybe notice something about the room that you're sitting in that you don't typically notice. A little something sitting somewhere, the way the light plays on a piece of furniture. Now coming back to engage in this group together. Welcome everyone, my name is Noah Pomeroy. I enjoy sharing mindfulness in a number of different contexts here in Hawaii. I teach the occasional class at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. I share mindfulness with a group of inmates at the Halawa State Prison here on Oahu. And I work with various organizations and companies doing workshops to share mindfulness. And as Amy mentioned, there's a particular resonance of mindfulness in Hawaii. So the spirit of aloha is strong in the islands and central to Hawaiian wisdom. And one interpretation of aloha is presence in breath. Now, the breath is this tool that's always here. It's always with us to be able to turn to come back and re-engage with the present moment. And I'll walk us through a guided meditation in a little bit after I share a few other things. Now, mindfulness has been so helpful to me personally, and that's why I enjoy sharing it with people. So for me, it's helped me through the good stuff. It's made the good stuff better. It's made the hard stuff easier. And that doesn't mean it was like the hard stuff isn't still hard, but it allows you to meet it with to meet the difficulties of life with more support and strength that comes from within. So in this time, more and more people are paying attention to mindfulness. They're searching for it on the internet. People naturally pay more attention in times of difficulty to techniques that can provide some coping mechanisms. Now, the American Psychological Association recently shared some data, and it's clear that stress, anxiety, and depression are much more widespread right now in the time of COVID-19 than before. And of course, we know that these were already great societal challenges before the pandemic. So it's our hope that getting a taste of mindfulness practice today can help you bolster your own well-being and mental resources in this time when we need it so much. And it's really, it's not just for us, right? It's for our family, it's for our friends, it's for our communities, for society at large. You can almost feel sometimes I feel like a collective web of just stress and anxiousness just permeating, through the country, the world. So we can be a source of calm and strength and steadiness for ourselves and for others by learning these practices. So after our presentation today, we hope that you have an experience of your own mindfulness that you can take with you, and you have an understanding about how to make it a regular part of your life through mindfulness practice, so that it serves you not only in the time of COVID-19 when widespread stress is so apparent, but in the years to come when we go back to a so-called normal life, which is of course full of all of its own challenges that we need to meet. Just a quick disclosure here, I don't have any conflicts of interest with the University of Hawaii or the School of Medicine. And the name of my consulting business is This Moment Mindfulness. You can find it on the internet at thismomentmindfulness.com. So in my piece today, we're going to take a look at some of the evidence-based benefits of mindfulness practice. We're going to discuss how do we develop mindfulness. Of course, we'll get into some guided meditation and have some time for a poll, some question and answers. And in regard to question and answers, I want to let you know that feel free to submit questions. You can submit questions during the presentation. I suggest using the Q&A button in the webinar controls. And then we'll see if we can get to them later if the questions arise during the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen here. And so this is our overview. So after the question answer period, we'll have some time to discuss mindfulness and self-compassion, which is another very skillful mindfulness practice we can turn to in these times. and we'll get into how to start a daily practice. So mindfulness practice has been around for thousands of years, and practitioners have been reporting the benefits of practice for just as long. But really in the last decade or so, there's been a lot more attention in mainstream society as a lot of scientific support has come out that really verifies, through the Western lens of science, verifies a lot of these benefits that practitioners have spoken of for a long time. Now, these are some of the benefits that are confirmed by various research studies into mindfulness. So improved attention regulation. So we live in such a distracted, like overstimulated time that just managing our attention is quite difficult, particularly in this time of spending so much time on screen. There's always like notifications and news coming in. Learning how to really influence how we spend this resource of our attention is a great skill. Another one is enhanced interpersonal relationships. So, you know, the people in our lives, like our relationships they're such a source of meaning in our lives that if we can bring mindfulness to them, as Amy was saying, it leads to deeper connection and really more fulfilling relationships. A number of studies support how mindfulness practice reduces stress, anxiety, and depression. And as I mentioned, these are more widespread than ever right now. So impulse control. You know, often we get into an experience where we just want to react. Let's say somebody says something that triggers you and you want to respond in a snappy way. So that would be a reaction when you just let that initial impulse right out. But if you can respond, it means you can take a moment to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't go with that first impulse. Maybe that's not the most skillful thing to say right now. That can be really helpful, and that's something that mindfulness helps with. And the studies also show that mindfulness leads to greater resilience. That is to say, it helps us recover from setbacks more easily, and it helps us push through adversity. And I mean, how important is that right now? There's a couple studies I want to highlight very quickly here. This first one on the left is from 2017. It was published in the Journal of Psychiatric Research. And this was a review of 45 other studies looking at the connection between mindfulness practice and stress reduction. And what this study of 45 other studies found was that mindfulness practices resulted in a decrease in several physiological markers of stress in the body. And those included cortisol, systolic blood pressure, heart rate, something called C-reactive protein, which is that's an indicator of inflammation in the body. So they found that all of these were reduced with various mindfulness practices. The second study in the middle here looked at the connection between mindfulness and resilience. And what these researchers found, based off of very detailed questionnaires to about 350 participants, is that individuals with higher mindfulness, that is, people who had more trait levels of mindfulness, reported greater resilience to difficulties that they experienced in their lives, to challenging emotions, and greater overall life satisfaction. pretty significant result. And in this third study here, this was a really interesting one where these researchers asked about 5,000 participants to download an app for the research study. And randomly throughout their days, these participants would be pinged by this app, and they would have to respond to a few questions. And the questions were, how are you feeling right now? What are you doing? And is your mind wandering? So what they found is that people's minds were wandering 47% of the time, which is pretty shocking to me. You know, if we sleep half our lives and our minds are wandering the other like 50% of our waking life. But perhaps what was more interesting is that they found how people were feeling, whether they were enjoying themselves or not, was more related to if they were paying attention to what they were doing than the activity itself. So even when it came to, you know, less than glamorous activities like cleaning the bathroom, and like people were, if they were paying attention to it, they reported greater levels of satisfaction in the moment. So I think the takeaway here is that it's not that, you know, we shouldn't plan for the future or remember the past, but it's that if we engage with the present moment, even with it, if it's with a like not the most exciting task, that may lead to an overall like continuity of satisfaction and enjoyment. And this last one is particularly exciting. It shows that after an 8-week mindfulness training program, these participants that participated in the program showed changes in the volume of gray matter in certain parts of their brain, including the left hippocampus, shown here in this graph, where the controls, you can see the control group on the left had less change than the MBSR group on the right. MBSR means mindfulness-based stress reduction. And other studies support that mindfulness practice also changes the way the brain is connected, particularly how the cerebral cortex is connected to the region of the brain, the amygdala, where our fight or flight response manifests. And there's more feedback by the cerebral cortex, the more advanced part of our brain. Now, these neuroimaging studies are fairly new, and this particular study had a small sample size, I think, of around 20 people. But they're very exciting, and I'm looking forward to more research into how mindfulness changes the brain. I want to make sure to cover a few misconceptions about mindfulness. Now, there is a lot of imagery out there associated with mindfulness that sometimes includes lotus flowers, which you don't have to love lotus flowers to practice mindfulness. You don't have to do yoga, nor do you have to live in a cave or become a monk. You know, mindfulness used to be seen, and meditation used to be seen as this like new agey thing that maybe it was, you know, just for hippies or people, those kind of people. That's just not the way it is. Of course, the roots of mindfulness go way back, particularly in the Buddhist tradition that trained in a lot of very advanced techniques in mindfulness. But the reality is that mindfulness is a human capacity to relate to our present moment experience with non-judgment, with openness, and with curiosity. You're bringing wonder, bringing a sense of wonder even to the regular moments of our day that we're rushing past. You know, these moments are the currency of our life, and we can engage with them. And this last one, Amy mentioned this too. Some people say, my mind won't stop. I can't do mindfulness. And actually, if you notice that your mind is busy, that's great. That means that you actually have mindfulness, and you can grow with that capacity. So mindfulness is mainstream. This is a shot of the covers of Mindful magazine. We've got government officials, police officers, doctors, hedge fund managers, professional athletes, children, college kids. Mindfulness is pretty much everywhere these days. And I like to think of mindfulness as a basic form of mental hygiene. So think about brushing your teeth and flossing. Chances are you do those most days of the week. Now, it's my hope and my belief actually that mindfulness will become as recommended as brushing your teeth and flossing, or as physical fitness is to your physical health. So think about your mindfulness practice as your mental hygiene. So how do we develop it? There's two major ways. There's formal mindfulness meditation practice, which we're going to do in just a moment. And there is informal practice. Now, formal practice is very important to helping the trait mindfulness within you grow and blossom, so that you can bring it into your day, into your moments, as Amy was describing these moments of mindfulness and connection with different people. These are the fruits that are born by this tree that you nurture. And when we formally practice, even if it's starting 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week, it begins to grow. Now, informal practice is when we consciously bring mindfulness into our daily lives. So there's a lot of opportunities when we're doing things that the brain tends to categorize as less than, like Amy mentioned, waiting in line. You're waiting, it's not a peak life experience. What could you possibly get out of waiting? Well, you could get a lot. You could start to notice things, be curious. Driving, you can feel the steering wheel, feel that reaction in you when somebody cuts you off. We'll talk more about mindfulness in daily life. So let's get into a 10-minute practice period together. So I invite you to find a comfortable seat that allows you to be upright, to have your spine upright, but not rigid. So we're bringing a sense of alertness coupled with relaxation into our mindfulness practice. So once you have this upright posture, preferably not leaning back against a chair, go ahead and let your eyes gently close if that's comfortable for you. If it's not comfortable, you can just slightly crack them. We'll start with a couple of deep in-breaths, in through the nose. Feel your breath. Listen to the sound of the bell. Now take 2 more and see if you can make these breaths just a little deeper. Noticing the sensation of your lungs expanding. Now let the breath become natural. There's no need to control it. I invite you to bring your awareness down to your feet. Wherever your feet are, see if you can notice physical sensations in this moment in your feet. There might be just a subtle pressing against the floor or a shoe. Maybe you notice a sense of blood flow or warmth. Now scanning with our awareness up from the feet, through the legs, noticing the lower leg, the knee, the upper legs. Bringing this curious, non-judgmental awareness to these physical sensations unfolding right now. Noticing the region of the pelvis. You notice a sense of pressure, gravity drawing you downward. And letting awareness move into the region of the belly and the chest. Noticing any sensations of breathing, sensations in the belly. Letting awareness move into the region of the shoulders, feeling the arms hanging from the shoulders. Noticing sensations in the hands. Do you feel tingling or pulsing in the fingertips? And finally, investigating with awareness the sensations in the head and the face. Allowing the brow to soften, letting go of any tension. Letting the jaw relax. Noticing the weight of the head on the spine. Now I invite you to let your awareness focus in just where you feel the breath in your body at this time. That might be in the belly, noticing the rising and falling. Maybe it's in the nostrils, where you feel air, cool air coming in through the nostrils. And on the exhalation, you might feel the nostrils warm. As warm air leaves the body. So the invitation is to rest your awareness just on these waves of sensations of breathing from moment to moment. Now, sooner or later, you'll notice that the awareness gets hijacked by a thought, story, plan, fantasy, memory, any number of things. You might feel like you've just woken up on a train to somewhere. And when you realize, when you notice that your mind has wandered, you're actually already back in the present moment. So it's actually not a time to judge the mind or for not meditating well. It's actually a moment of mindfulness being strengthened. And then we just start again. We find those sensations of breathing. Seeing if we can get very curious about these subtle sensations of breathing that we usually don't even notice. When thoughts arise, we can let them come, let them be, and let them go. Even just noticing the course of a single breath from the beginning of an inhalation all the way through to the end of an exhalation. It's actually a profound act of engaging with the present moment. in our final minute of this session, notice any stillness that might be present, even just for a moment. What does that feel like? Maybe it feels spacious, grounding. And just noticing the next 3 breaths. And letting your eyes gently open, taking in the room that you're in. Oh, welcome back from that journey. So we'll open it up for some questions and comments in the Q&A and the chat. But first of all, I'd like to launch a poll just to get an idea of how that was in the room. So if you see that poll, you can go ahead and answer some of those questions. The first one is, how busy was your mind? On a scale of 1 to 5. And we'll just give a little bit of time here for participants to answer some of these questions. Second one is, did you notice how thoughts, stories, and emotions just appeared? And the third question, were there any periods of calm between thoughts, plans, and memories and stories? And if you have any, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A. Or if you would like to answer or ask your question live, you can go ahead and raise your hand in the webinar controls. And Anissa will call on you to be live on video and audio. If anyone feels like asking a question or sharing a comment live, we'll keep the poll open for just another 30 seconds or so.
Noah, you're muted. I think you're trying to talk. You're muted.
Thanks, Anissa. Let's go ahead and share the results of the poll. All right. How busy was your mind on a scale of 1 to 5? Yeah, pretty busy. All right. We got a lot of people saying their mind was moderately busy. Sounds like we're sitting with some human beings here. Did you notice how thoughts, stories, and emotions just appeared? Yes, that was a strong yes from most people. That's really a profound realization. You know, we live our lives with this illusion that we have so much control, yet just sitting down to do the simple task of following our breath, we see that the mind indeed has a life of its own. And these thoughts and stories and emotions just show up without any particular invitation. And that's actually, a really important thing to realize, because it gives us some perspective, and it helps us realize that we are not those things. Those are showing up in the contents of consciousness. And were you able to notice periods of calm? Wow, that's a strong 97% yes. That's fantastic. That's like, you know, it's not required to do mindfulness practice, but that's really great that you all experience that. Those do tend to grow with practice, but even after years of practice, you'll still have sessions where your mind is just very active and won't stop spinning when you sit down. So you can't really judge your meditation practice based off of how calm or how blissful you feel. Great, thanks for participating in that poll. How about a couple minutes for some questions? Yeah, how do you deal with physical discomfort is one big question. It can be quite challenging in meditation because it may seem to get even stronger when we're investigating physical discomfort and pain. But that is the first step, is noticing it. And in noticing it and seeing it in all its color, and getting curious about what the discomfort or pain is like, helps us shift a little bit to the perspective of an observer that's holding the pain, and without trying to push it away. And I think that we can gradually more get closer to inhabiting this allowing of the discomfort in mindfulness practice, the more we can approach it with curiosity, even though there's a big part of the mind that's just saying that, you know, we want the pain to go away. The other thing I would recommend, on top of trying to observe the pain objectively, is bringing some self-compassion to it. So acknowledging that it hurts, acknowledging that this is part of the human experience, is suffering, and a lot of people experience this. It's not just me experiencing this. That might help too. Another person says, I cannot stop my mind from wandering no matter how hard I try. Yeah, my answer to that is stop trying to stop your mind, and instead see if you can, you know, sit on the bleachers and watch the game unfold, and try and inhabit some of that perspective of seeing what the mind is doing. You can try labeling the thoughts that you see. Okay, see, I'm planning again. Wow, I'm a compulsive planner. Well, I'm worried again about that thing. Okay, worrying. Come back to the breath. Oh, there's another one. I'm remembering something from the past, or thinking about that thing I should have said in the meeting. And try those things. All right, I'm gonna pause the Q&A for now, and if we have more time towards the end of the presentation, I will open it back up again.
We have somebody, Noah, that has their hand raised to ask a question live.
Go
Okay,
ahead. Have the person ask.
let's do it.
Hello?
Hello there.
Can you hear
Welcome.
me?
Your
Yes.
your audio is live. We don't see you, but we hear your voice.
Okay, great. I find I find very difficult. I find very difficult to don't to meditate by myself. I just do it with guided guidance. I just do it listening someone telling me what to do. How can I transit from that stage to pure meditation, only myself with myself?
Great question. Thank you. You know, it's fine to practicing with guided meditations is great. I often practice with guided meditations to just try out different styles of mindfulness meditation, but I also enjoy practicing without the guidance. And I would say just try and do it in smaller doses. Let's say you're going to sit for 20 minutes, then I'd say try starting with a 10-minute guided meditation, and then maybe just doing 3 minutes or 5 minutes without the guidance, like after the meditation ends. So do it in small doses, and that, I think that could be helpful. And then there's also a lot of power and beauty in practicing with other people, which is of course difficult to do in person in the time of COVID-19. But there are a lot of virtual resources that we'll mention a bit later. So thank you. And you said, do we have any other participants with a raised hand for a video question?
No, I do have there's a chat question, and it said, got lost in the process. Is that purposeful, question mark?
Got lost in the process. Well, I'm wondering what getting lost means in that context. Is that maybe a distraction came up? Maybe the mind wandered, and that's okay. We can always start fresh by just coming back to what we're experiencing now. So even if I'm guiding a meditation on following the breath or focusing on the sensations in the hand, if you find yourself your mind wandering and you come back, you don't know where the meditation is, like the meditation is you realizing where you are. So if that realization is, oh, I'm lost, I'm not sure what to do next, then you note that as an observer, as something, you note that as something appearing in awareness, and then you just move on with the next breath or whatever it is next in your meditation.
Okay, there's two other questions, or three now. Are walking meditations as effective?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lynn. So walking meditation can be very skillful, and I practice walking meditation fairly regularly. Sometimes I like to do it before I do a seated meditation. So in walking meditation, very briefly, we bring our awareness to the sensations in our feet and our legs when we're walking. So we're very often focused up here in our mind, controlling and problem solving. So walking meditation can be a way to focus on sensations that are outside of your head, that are dynamic because they change when we're moving. So you focus on each step. So if you want to try it, I recommend after the call just taking 5 minutes and walking. You literally walk back and forth, maybe like over the distance of 15 feet, slowly walking back and forth, just noticing the sensations in your feet. And just like when you're following the breath, you come back to the sensations in your feet when your mind wanders. All right. Well, I think we should pause questions for right there. I just want to get into a few recommendations on how to start a mindfulness practice and how to make this something that you can make a regular part of your life. So, mindfulness in daily life. Sharing a few slides now. These are just some of the ways you can integrate mindfulness into daily life. You can do it when you're eating. You might try in your next meal to set a 1-minute timer. When the meal is done, it's sitting down in front of you. Maybe you're eating with someone, maybe you're not. You might try setting just a 1-minute timer and say, I'm going to fully engage with this meal for 1 whole minute. Noticing the smell, noticing the textures, noticing the flavors. You'll be surprised how mindfulness can amplify your experience of just simply eating by bringing this quality of attention to, an experience that, well, we often rush through, whether it's to just rush through and be done with it, or rush through because we're having a conversation, or rush through because we're watching something. And again, you can try it when you're driving. Please don't close your eyes, but notice the sounds around you. Notice the feeling of the steering wheel. Notice things that arise when you're driving. And of course, the breath. Just like the presence and breath of aloha, we can feel and return to the breath at any time in our lives. When we find ourselves in a challenging situation, we can always take a breath. And this is an acronym I like to use in tough situations where I feel some reactivity inside me. The acronym is STOP. It stands for stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. And so, like, I was in a meeting recently where someone, said something. I felt the need to immediately interject, and then I thought, wait a second, let me stop, take a breath. And it doesn't need to be some giant breath, right? You can do it. You can take a breath, like, quite secretively. There, I'm taking a breath. Now I'm observing these sensations. What is this reaction in me right now? Oh, I feel some tension in my chest. Oh, my heart is beating faster because I'm ready to snap and say that thing that maybe I shouldn't say. Okay, now I'm going to proceed. I'm going to proceed with something that might help the situation or this person or me, or everything just work out a little better. So stop, you can remember that acronym. So starting your own practice, I really want to emphasize that, and I think I saw a question about this, how you bring mindfulness into your life is you do it. So you need some discipline, just like learning anything. You can think of learning mindfulness like learning an instrument. You do need time to practice. And in the beginning, it's very helpful to have some support. There's a lot of guided meditations out there that are available for free. We're going to share a resources document after the presentation that Amy put together. It's quite thorough, just mentioning a few things here. Insight Timer is a free smartphone app you can download. If you search for my name, Noah Pomeroy, you can find a 10-minute mindfulness breathing practice that you can do at any time. Books can be quite helpful. One of my favorites is Waking Up. They support learning. You know, there's a conceptual learning that goes along with this, right? But the learning by doing is critical. It's so important. And then, yes, sitting with community is very helpful. And there's a number of virtual sessions that are happening out there that are accessible from anywhere. We'll have some information on how to join those in the resources document. I do one on Thursdays that's open to anyone and lasts 30 minutes. And there's some other local teachers that also offer online sessions. And if you'd like to get in touch with me and either join my virtual sessions or work with me in any way, here's my contact information. You can find me at This Moment Mindfulness on the internet and at on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot. So I think that we have a few minutes now before closing.
Yeah, are there any other questions that you'd like to answer, Noah?
I'm happy to spend a few minutes with questions and open. And Amy, if you see any you'd like to answer, go ahead. We can just kind of.
Sure. I've been answering some of them in the chat space. So
Great.
some of you can see that in the chat. I've been answering your questions. But feel free to speak up if anyone has some other questions.
Yeah, so I see one right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see one right now. It's what is the best way to improve your self-awareness when feelings of anxiousness arise?
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend getting curious as step one. Where does the anxiousness manifest in the body? Because it usually does, even though we think about anxiousness often starts with this kind of deluge of thought after thought and wondering about often about potential negative outcomes, that it then manifests in the body. So we can look for it and get curious about where it is in the body. We can also get curious about what assumptions come along with this, because we often think things are going to turn out worse than they do. It's kind of it's part of this natural negativity bias that we have. So I suggest noticing the anxiousness in the body and noticing any assumptions behind the anxiousness.
A couple of people have asked, how often do I practice and how long? And so two people asked that, so I'll answer it even though I put it in writing. And I think the very best time is right after you wake up, when you're coming out of slow brain waves. You're more likely to calm down and then wake up slowly. And sometimes right before bed too. And at least you start in 5-minute increments, 10, 15, 20. 20 is really about the best time. And when I go to a group, it's usually led for about 20 minutes and then you're off on your own for 20 minutes. And I find that the deepest, best meditation is when you're off on your own in those 20 minutes and not being guided. The guiding is just to help you focus and take you away from your thoughts. And that's why people like to talk to other people a lot and or watch TV, because they're having somebody else's conversation enter their mind and replace the maybe static and problems that they've been focusing on. And that's why when you do talk to someone, you call them up, you feel better. You also feel better because you're feeling their energy. You know, there's certain people that you're not going to call and other people that you are. And it's usually the ones that you can connect with. But you, in a group setting, that energy of the group, all quiet, all meditating, and you feel the sound of what's going on. It's very relaxing. It's also a habit. And this is your time. This is your brain time. And just think of it as this, if you don't, you know, want to do it. Everybody brushes their teeth, but what's more important, your teeth or your mind? I mean, you know, and you could have bad breath or sweet breath, and the same thing you can do with your mind. And so, I'm giving you that amount, and you know, this is really up to you know, personal preference, but it is a habit and one that gets better over time. And
Noah, you're muted.
I love mindfulness of being muted. That's one of my favorite mindfulness practices. I see one that is, why is an upright posture important during meditation? So we recommend an upright posture to bring this quality of wakefulness, of alertness, because it is this kind of bizarre combination. We're relaxing, but we're being alert. And usually those don't go together. And an upright posture can help you be more awake and alert. And it also helps you embody a sense of kind of courage and dignity, because this takes courage. Like, this stuff is not easy. So I want to applaud all of you today for trying this and considering bringing this into your lives, because in mindfulness meditation, we're getting intimate with the human experience and all the rough parts of it and all the good parts of it. You know, the external world and pop culture messaging just focuses on like all these like shiny parts and things that might supposedly make you happy, but we need the satisfaction that comes from learning to be with your full human experience, including all your challenges, all your self-criticism, like the sorrows, the joys, the pains, of experiencing it as it is without trying to push it away, is really beautiful. So an upright posture helps us almost like stand as if we're like a warrior of welcoming the human experience rather than trying to hide from it or cover it up.
I want to bring something up, just one last thing. I'll be sending out a handout of all the places you can practice mindfulness meditation in town and outside. We'll have links and apps and books, and there'll be lots of online meditations, one of which is Noah, because of the coronavirus. And then I'll also be sending you the different types of meditation. There's many different types. It's an article. And then I'm also going to send you a little exercise called Appreciative Inquiry. And I just want you for 10 seconds to think of something where you didn't feel too good about yourself, and how maybe you've been beating yourself up over something and repeatedly and not letting it go. And one of the ways to let it dissipate is to ask yourself these, they call it appreciative inquiry questions. And I want you to yourself, answer these questions. No matter how difficult that experience was for you, what strengths or talents did you bring to the situation? What were your strengths and talents that you brought? Because we all have something. What was challenging for you in that situation? And how did you change how you see yourself? Who helped me in this situation, and how did it make me feel? Because a lot of people, friends, do help, and sometimes we don't give them the credit. What did I learn about myself or other people in this situation? And that in itself makes you stronger and more resilient to meet other challenges in life. And lastly, what did I learn in this situation, and how can I apply it in my daily life? So it doesn't go without its value, in the sense that even if it changed you a little bit and made you more resilient, that in itself is a value. And I just think it's a value that all of you are here today. And I want to thank the leaders too, London and Anissa, and for organizing this group, and for all of your really good questions. And we'll be sending you the handouts and the PowerPoints for you, and going from there.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Noah. So as Amy said, we'll go ahead and send out all of that information. We'll also send out the recording. I saw that someone asked a question about that. So just want everyone to know that we'll send out the recording. We also have a survey, a workshop evaluation survey that we'd like all of you to complete. So I'll send that also out in the email, the link to complete that as well. So before we wrap up, I'll just go ahead and say one thank you to the City and County of Honolulu for this opportunity for the grant, specifically the Grants and Aid Program, for allowing us to put this on. I also want to thank Amy and Noah for your wonderful presentation and the meditation. It was awesome, and I'm sure that people got what they needed today. I also want to thank Samaritan Counseling Center, Rochelle, NAMI Hawaii, Anissa, and Kumi. I know we worked so hard to put this together, so thank you so much for supporting. And we will go ahead and send all of that information out. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to get in touch with us. I'll go ahead and put this up on so you guys can see this. Okay. So here are our logos. Feel free to Google us, go to our website. You can visit us at SamaritanCounselingCenter.org. Also visit NAMI Hawaii's website. There's a list of resources there that Anissa had mentioned earlier. So feel free to get in contact with us if you have any questions. All right.
Yes, thank you all. And I see my grandma's on here, and tomorrow's her birthday, so I want to tell her happy birthday, and I love her. And I hope you guys have a great weekend.
Happy birthday, Grandma.
Wishing you all a great weekend and a whole life. May you practice the mindfulness and bring you closer to the reality.
Thanks everyone for your presence. Thanks, London, Anissa, Amy.
Thank you for everybody Wonderful. From all over. Aloha, everybody. Bye-bye now.